Hello, everybody. Good evening. And I know there's a lot of conversation already happening, and this is in exactly the spirit that we need. It's lovely, but see my voice now as the kind invitation to join us here in the beautiful. Hello, everyone. A lot of familiar faces, lots of change maker, lots of pioneers. Lovely to have you. Find a seat. We have enough seats for all of you because we are so thrilled and happy that we can gather ahead of the World Health Summit here in beautiful Berlin, coming together, of course, for the main topics of collaboration, for women's health, for breaking taboos together. Beautiful. Thank you very much for your attention. Again, officially, good evening, everyone. It's lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for making time and space in your busy calendar, right? As we are all very busy in these crazy times, running from call to call, from meeting to meeting, and especially ahead of the World Health Summit. So thank you again for coming together and for giving the topic of women's health all your muscle strength, all your energy, as of course this topic is heavily underfunded and of course falls off the budget very quickly, although we all know it is a huge lever when it comes to social innovation and social businesses. And we will listen to lots of solutions today as well. And we are talking today in that momentum and in these times that we are living from evidence to action. How do we get there from evidence to more action when it comes to tackling women's health risks by ensuring menstrual product safety? And with that topic tonight and this official side event, of course, we also bring attention on the Gates Foundation's new $2.5 billion funding pledge for women's health, the Siemens Stiftung's new focus on supporting female health and hygiene, and the GIZ's gender strategy 2025 to 2029. And just look around, because you are all change makers. I see entrepreneurs. Yes, hi. I see social entrepreneurs. I see entrepreneurs from the private sector and the industry. I do see artists. We will hear from you later on, of course. I see researchers. I see, yes, media and communicators, because we need these good narratives. I see pioneers in the room, absolutely, early pioneers in the room, public health and WASH professionals, and menstrual health advocates and activists. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. No, but we are all change makers, right? So again, to all of you, thanks for being here and for coming tonight. And in case of emergency, it's not going to happen, but I was told to tell you this beautiful door is the emergency door. So please just, run out. Ignore the alarm. We meet outside, in case. Okay? And now I hand over for the opening remarks to the head of the GIZ's Berlin representation, this beautiful building we are in. Previously, she was the head of the GIZ in Mali, in Sri Lanka, and in the Republic of the Maldives. Randa Courier, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Katie. So, dear guests, dear partners and colleagues, so on behalf of GIZ, I warmly welcome you, all of you here, to our GIZ representation in Berlin. And I'm especially pleased to welcome Dr. Rufeng Juan Cheng, welcome, Director of Women's Health Innovations at the Gates Foundation. Jonas Reste-Steinert, Head of the Social Innovation Hub at Siemens Stiftung, and Dr. Doris Kerschhofer from BMZ. You are there, welcome, I didn't see you yet. So from the Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. So we are delighted to host today's event on menstrual health and product safety, a critical issue in addressing women's health risks worldwide. And GIZ has been actively engaged on this essential, crucial topic for many years. On one hand, in our program work on behalf of BMZ, so we have conducted awareness campaigns such as Let's Talk Period and Kick the Stigma. Just 1 year ago, we welcomed goodwill ambassadors from Albania, Nepal, and Zambia right here in this space, and I have a very nice souvenir of that. Great, strong, engaged women, and we had a very interesting and beautiful evening here. And on the other hand, within our own organization, GIZ, there was a lot of things to do. So particularly in the workplace context, we have installed emergency menstrual product dispensers here in the Berlin representation, which is an event house, so it's seen for everybody, and in many of our country offices. So another point was recently at the Global Disability Summit in early April of this year. We provided algae-based tampons by Vyld. So these are maybe small steps, but significant steps towards creating more inclusive and safe environments, driven by dedicated people, partners, colleagues from across departments and roles, especially through the Menstrual Action Staff Initiative we have in GIZ. Another thing, a big thank you to everyone who made this event tonight possible, particularly our strategic partners. You see them all here, but I want to name some of them. The Gates Foundation, of course, the Siemens Stiftung, and many others, such as the Sanitation Hygiene Fund and the Agency for Business and Economic Development. So we are very honored today to welcome international guests. Our house is here for international dialogue from research, policy, and practice. And it's a unique mix, and that showcases how science and on-the-ground experience can come together to drive meaningful change. I hope tonight's event will inspire and enlighten you all on this important topic, which is truly close to my heart. I wish you a very nice evening and interesting and fruitful discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rhonda, and thanks, of course, for bringing all of us together here in that room. But you mentioned it already. Of course, it is a mix of partners that are bringing us together. So for our next welcome, I welcome here on stage the head of Social Innovation Hub from Siemens Stiftung with his extensive experience in green and social entrepreneurship, climate finance and private sector development across Africa, Asia and beyond. Before Siemens Stiftung, you were very busy at Adelphi, but thank you, of course, for bringing us all together here is Jonas Restle-Steinert.
Yeah, thank you very much. And good evening. I'm very, very honored actually, and I'm very pleased that I'm allowed to welcome you in the name of Siemens Stiftung to this wonderful evening and for this very, very important topic. Siemens Stiftung is a philanthropic organization working for global development in general with a strong focus on topics such as essential services, digitality, and climate. And in that space, especially in the space of essential services, we have worked on topics around water and hygiene and health for many, many years. And as such, it is very, very clear to us that menstrual health and hygiene is not a side issue. It is a very, very central topic that is central to participation in school, work, and public life for women, their families, and society. Globally, about 1.8 billion people menstruate, and 500 million of these do not have access to adequate facilities and menstrual products. Nevertheless, it's a field that has been constantly overlooked, that is constantly underfunded, and the huge impact of this topic is sort of not fully seen. Where information, sanitary facilities, hygienic circumstances, safe products are missing, girls and women and the societies they live in are affected through infections and unknown long-term consequences of unsafe products, through low self-esteem and stigma, and through a lack of economic opportunities. Embedding menstrual health and hygiene more prominently within WASH frameworks and bringing this topic to the center court of discussion is therefore logical, impactful, and overdue. Interventions in menstrual health and hygiene are actually rather low cost mostly and can reach great impact and high value for money. Nevertheless, it's still underfunded. Within the Social Innovation Hub at Siemens Foundation, we strongly believe in entrepreneurial approaches to counteract market failure. And we know what entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs especially, need. They need access to funding and access to finance to reach as many people as possible. They need very strong networks and partnerships to scale and accelerate their operations, and they do need knowledge to grow their businesses into sustainable businesses. This is why in our work we equip social entrepreneurs with the skills to strengthen their organizations and grow their impact and move them towards investment readiness. At Siemens Stiftung, we are working on breaking the stigma on menstrual health and hygiene and on demonstrating the business and market potential of this topic and of this field. We do this through the Female Health and Hygiene Accelerator, for which we are collaborating with a number of local and international implementation and funding partners. These include Knorr-Bremse Global Care, Waterloo Foundation, The Case for Her, GIZ Invest for Jobs, Agentur für Wirtschaft und Entwicklung, Secon Impact, and Cewas. We therefore know that social entrepreneurs are very well positioned to tackle the challenges of menstrual health and hygiene. They do have the innovative capacity and the pragmatic solutions that are needed to tackle this topic. They do have the deep local knowledge and know their communities, and they really know what the users need. And also, they can create income opportunities and jobs in the regions where they are active. And last but not least, they persist beyond donor-funded project cycles. By strengthening these entrepreneurs with skills, networks, and catalytic capital, we help turn promising ideas into sustainable businesses that close access gaps at scale. Tonight is about turning evidence into actions. So let's support research to provide the much-needed evidence. Let's make schools and workplaces period-friendly, and let's help social enterprises to scale their solutions. And let's all together challenge the stigma around mental health and hygiene. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonas. Our next speaker, she is also, of course, a pioneer and a change maker because her career is guided by a very deep passion for equity, for innovation and improving health outcomes for women and girls worldwide. And as a fellow goalkeeper, it's my pleasure, of course, to welcome you on stage, Director of Women's Health Innovations at Gates Foundation, and as a global leader in women's health innovation, Dr. Ru Cheng.
Well, thank you so much for that warm welcome, and it's absolutely an honor and pleasure to be with you here today, along with GIZ, Siemens, and all of our partners here to spotlight this often overlooked yet deeply human issue that crosses boundaries geographically and across the ages, and is so central to the health of women and girls globally. As said, my name is Ru Cheng. I'm a gynecologist. I'm also a woman, and I'm a mother of a daughter. And so talking about periods for me feels normal. It feels very natural. But that's not the case in many circles in which we travel and which we interact with other people. And truthfully, periods are just a normal body function. They are just like a blood pressure is a normal body function, just like heart rate is a normal body function. And I think if we can normalize the discussion about periods and just talk about it as if it's just a normal part of your biology, right? It happens. Every female menstruates, and it's part of the normal progression from adolescence to adulthood and then beyond. And just thinking about it in that way may be a way to frame it so that it becomes less stigmatized, becomes less of a taboo, and it becomes less awkward to talk about it. When I think back to my own adolescence and my own conversation with my mother about periods, I just remember it being incredibly awkward, not having the right vocabulary. She didn't really know how to describe, there was a bit of a language thing too. And I just remembered feeling very awkward and embarrassed, like, oh, I can't wait till this conversation is over. So it would be my goal to bring that conversation into the fore and just talk about it anywhere, everywhere as a normal body function. I know the periods come from a part of the body that's not visible externally, and so it's in a way shrouded in mystery, and in different cultures it's referred to by different words, but it's really just a very normal thing that's happening. So the scale of this problem is quite large. Over 500 million women lack access to safe menstrual products and facilities. And we know that poor quality or contaminated materials can cause infections, disrupt the vaginal microbiome, which is that normal population of bacteria that lives in the vagina that helps to protect against reproductive tract infections like HIV and other non-HIV STIs. And potentially that disruption in the vaginal microbiome can increase risk for preterm birth. So there are significant health concerns associated with this. I know many of the people in this room are truly passionate advocates and have been working on these issues for some time. So it's exciting to see how these decades of work has gotten us to this moment of acceleration. Every year, we are understanding more about the connection between menstrual health and broader health, and how we can make changes across the supply chain to ensure we have products that women can use safely and with dignity and with low cost. Product safety is just the entry point. True transformation requires integrated approaches, policy reform, regulatory accountability, data systems, and market incentives. So I'm excited for us to work together and learn from each other, from scientists, from policymakers, activists, and entrepreneurs. In short, everybody in this room and beyond, to ensure that every woman, every girl has access to products that are safe, affordable, and sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ru Chang. My name is Katie Gallus, and I'm so pleased to guide you through the evening. It's not a one-way conversation, that's for sure, because we are so thrilled and curious. What are your questions later on? So please give me a hand sign later when we dive into our conversation. And for our first deep dive here on stage, while preparing for that conversation for that evening, this topic gave me true goosebumps, because she raises the question, what are the hidden dangers, and especially the women's health risks from toxic menstrual products? From toxic menstrual products. What are the impacts of metals in menstrual products on women's health, including not only in partner countries or in the global south or somewhere, no, also in Germany and in France, right? So I think we are all excited to hear more about it, and she is the assistant professor at Columbia University Mailman School of Public Health. Please give her a big round of applause, Dr. Katrin Schilling.
Do you need a microphone?
Yes, I take them.
I do
enjoy it. Okay. Yeah, good evening, everyone, and I'm super excited to be part of this exciting event, and I think I need this piece here. And I need to steal Jan's word from the social media post where he said, I think he said invisible toxins. And actually, my team and we make these invisible toxins, especially metals, visible by measuring them, identifying how many metals are in menstrual products, what is the exposure risk to these metals, and also what is the health implications of metals. Okay, there will be a little bit of science, and the reason why I want to give you a little bit of background why we actually started the study, because it looks like, oh, why does she do metals and where does it come from? Okay, let me see. Okay, the reason is because there is a safety gap in menstrual products. And this is just, there is a study which showed we have already a number of publications in science, publication which actually looked at chemicals in menstrual products. So actually by now 27 plus, I would say. And they evaluated different chemicals in menstrual products. But all the studies actually detected chemicals. but it was not conclusive of what is exposure to, or what is the exposure risk to these chemicals. And until we started our study in 2021, there were no study on metals. This was all other chemicals. And then, okay, we need to link it to what does it mean to women's health. There's 3 studies that looked at population of women and looked at does the exposure to these chemicals from menstrual product use actually cause some health or has some health implications. So there's 3 studies, all of them observed associations. I'm like, okay, let me show you one. Okay, that's one where they looked at tampon use and the mercury blood levels. And they found that there is an association which showed that tampon users have, in general, higher mercury blood levels. Okay, since this is a statistics, it was not statistically significant, I have to say that, but it was in generally a trend. So based on the trend, it raised us the question, has anyone ever measured metals in tampons that you really can say, is that a real finding? Is that a false association? It's like, okay, again, what we did, looked into the literature and was like, unfortunately there's nothing. There's nothing on, there were no data available on mercury in tampons nor any other metals in tampons or menstrual products. Okay, then we decided, let's go and in New York, go around, buy some buy tampons, and look at metals in tampons. So we bought different ones from organic to non-organic, different sizes, different brands, and measured 16 metals. And we found all of them. So all of them, of course, in different concentrations, but I would like to highlight 4 of them. 4 of them is arsenic, cadmium, mercury, and lead. One good news is mercury was actually not there. So, okay, the ones where we were looking for, that was not there, or not as expected in the concentration. But what is important is actually arsenic, cadmium, and lead are known toxic metals. So there's no safe level for lead. And also for arsenic, what arsenic does, it methylates our DNA. So it's very toxic, and so all of these metals we found, and they cause cardiovascular disease, and we know that from chronic exposure. It's not like I'm not talking about occupational health. I'm really talking about the water you're drinking, your food you're eating, and the products you're using. This is chronic exposure where we know that can cause cardiovascular health, brain health issues, and kidney issues. Okay, I don't want to scare you too much, but sorry. But so what I said, some of the metals have been linked to impact on long-term health and well-being. As you can see, again, a little bit of science, or this is a paper which showed you have all these interesting chemicals here. You see, just focus on the red bars, because the red bars are the metals. And what you can see here, they stick out actually, and especially lead. And it shows you that lead costs healthy life years of 40 million healthy life years. So that's globally. So you see lead is worse, and we have mercury, chromium, cadmium, and arsenic. So all the ones we found in products, they are also listed here, which causes healthy life years, all of us. And then another, and actually more than other chemicals like PCBs or phthalate or PFAS. So, and also on top of that, these 4 metals are listed among the chemicals of public health concerns from the WHO. So if we find them in menstrual products, what does it mean if they are among the 10 most problematic chemicals of public health concern? Okay, so we found them, so what is the solution? Or what happened after the study came out? So it was sometimes a bit overwhelming when it came out. There were a lot of drama, I have to say, and we had to bring it a little bit in perspective, but it actually changed a lot in some states in the US. It actually led to, in New York, to a bill which actually says they want to ban PFAS, heavy metals, including lead, hormone disruptors, and carcinogens. In California, it led where we were a little bit involved because to just give some about the levels, what it means. They have already, the bill is out now for signature to the governor of California, which they want to apply a testing of menstrual products in the state of California every 2 years, I think. And then also in the UK, there's currently a petition running on product-specific safety regulation for tampons, and that it includes also testing for chemicals. Okay, and then I have given a presentation about our data before, and that was actually the chance where I made Adrian from Sanitation Hygiene Fund and Francesca from the Gates Foundation. And with their support now, we are actually expanding that work, looking at not only tampons, but looking what about other menstrual products? What about cups? What about discs? What about reusable pads? What about single-use pads? Okay, so I got the opportunity with their support to source menstrual products from almost 30 countries now. That was a fun experience in the last 3 months to get all the products. I got 7 kilograms from the Philippines. That was, they were the best. So no shortage of supply. So anyway, so that wouldn't have been possible with a lot of NGOs, friends, colleagues around the world. But just to list a few of them, I would say, so we cover in South America, we currently cover Colombia and Peru. We have products from Asia, from the Philippines, Indonesia, India, Sri Lanka, Kyrgyzstan. We have from Africa, we have Namibia, we have Ghana, we get Nigeria, Morocco. So if any of the countries we are listing or you are interested, we should do some tests, please send me products. So, okay, wait. How go I back? Okay, these are just a few of them. So I do not want to expose anyone. So if anyone knows any of those, I cannot tell you if this is a good one or a bad one. I just selected a few. So the way also how we selected is, just want to say that they were not biased. So we gave them a protocol to make sure, go to a grocery store, purchase whatever is available on the market. Do not try to find like a hidden secret product, which is the general when someone goes to the supermarket there. Yes, we try to cover, what I said, most products from tampons to from single-use to reusable ones. And I always asked women to purchase them to make sure that they know the best what's on the market. So we have a data set where we included picture, I showed the pictures from all the products, but also we have a data set where how is the labeling, where were they manufactured, what is the ingredient list, everything we could find on the package. We have a huge data set now to make sure, okay, what's the transparency of the menstrual products. And I have to say, I was a bit surprised that 8% of the menstrual products have not even the country of origin listed. Okay, and you can see this is basically NA at the top, means they are not listed. But then the other ones is like basically for the country of manufacture. So we have not selected, they were all, it doesn't mean when it says India, they were really purchased in India. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, also a snapshot of what is the distribution. So it's about 60% is single use and about 40% is reusable we got. And a bit of distribution about the different products is mainly pads. As we have already heard, there's maybe also some Sigma type of products available. Also, what I said, cup is sometimes difficult to get in low and middle income countries. Okay, now some data. Okay, everybody's interested in lead because lead is no safe level. Okay, do you see the menstrual products here all listed? Tampons, single use, reusable, underwear. If there's no line, means we didn't have a product. So what we can see is, reusable pads, surprisingly, had in low and middle income countries, had the largest amount of lead, up to 1,000 nanograms per gram. But you also can see there's a huge range. If you just look at the single-use ones from high-income country, it's basically from nothing I don't know if this thing does, it doesn't, I cannot show. Sorry. So basically from nothing, from like 200. So there's an order, like order of magnitude difference between what the product is. And you cannot see it. When you look at it, it doesn't show you. Is it 100 or is it 1? And I want to highlight 2 more metals. Okay, I want to highlight antimony. Why antimony? Antimony is actually used in plastic, because antimony trioxide is often used in plastic. So as more plastic your tampons, your menstrual products, your pads contain, as higher your antimony levels are most likely. So what you can see here, we have the Ecotex 100, allows us to have 30,000 nanograms per gram antimony, which is actually quite high, because antimony affects your liver. So when you look at this, it's like 100,000 nanograms per gram antimony you can find. As I said, more plastic, more antimony. So often we have for underwear, reusable pads and single use, they often even exceed the Ecotex 100 limit. Another element I would like to highlight is uranium. The reason is because there's no benchmark for uranium. It's not covered by Ecotex 100. Uranium's target organ is your brain and your kidney. Okay, what does that mean for, we now know they're in this product. We know it might be not good. What is the exposure risk? Okay, what we already know from some studies looking at medication, vaginally administered drugs, that it's 10 to 80 times higher, your absorption vaginally, compared to the skin contact, what you use for the Ecotex 100 as a regulation. So let's give an example. So this is a study, this is what we did, because you can say, what does it do during menstruation? What actually drives that stuff leaches from menstrual product is your pH. So when you menstruate, at the beginning, your pH goes to 7. Then slowly, when the flow gets lower, then your pH becomes lower and it goes back to 4. Normally, vaginal pH is 4.5. So we did a test with menstrual fluid, simulated menstrual fluid, and how much of lead leaches. Of course, you can see it's total 40 nanograms. When you have vaginal fluid, again, as I said, lower pH leaches more. So means your risk potentially becomes more when you have at your lower flow days, because it can leach more from the products. Okay, this is really just a rough calculation. So if you have a blood volume from a woman is 4,300 milliliters, and then you menstruate for 40 years, what would be lead exposure contribution, assuming your lead levels also get lower over time, right? This has a half-life of 10 to 30 years in your body. So, but it's roughly about the same what you menstruate. Would be 2 to 5% if we take the maximum levels, what you can see here, from 160 nanograms and the 40 nanograms. That would be the contribution to your blood lead levels. That's a very rough, it's not a modeling, it's just a very rough calculation. Okay, and then what does it do to your vaginal cells? We did expose vaginal cells to exactly the concentration we find in menstrual products. We use a mixture of arsenic, cadmium, lead, and zinc. Zinc is that the reason why zinc, and I have not mentioned it, is because zinc was super high, and we suspect this might be zinc nanoparticles because they have antimicrobial properties. So we treated the cells. Before the treatment, you can see them. And if you look after 8 hours, which is normally the time to wear a tampon, you see that the cells come a bit roundish and funny. They don't look healthy, let's say that. Okay. We need to do more tests, and this is just, what I said, it's more complex. I don't want to scare anyone, but I said it's more complex because there are a lot more layers we need to study, but it's already said the cells do respond to the dose we are giving them, which you can find in some of the menstrual products. Okay, the take-home message is that the metals are everywhere, and some of them are toxic, we find them. So antimony levels, what I said, exceed in some of them the textile safety benchmark. For some of the metals, there are no benchmarks, so it's very difficult to know what would be the risk. Of course, it leaches more at lower pH, and then the vaginal cells, when they're exposed, they don't look as healthy after a while. So we need more studies. And what I said, the exciting part is that there is already policy action for some states in the US want to make a change to either testing or ban chemicals in menstrual products. And with that, oops, sorry, can I go back? No, now I can, here we go. I would like all these people, because I couldn't have done all this stuff with all these people who gave me all the products. These are all the people who gave me the products. And my lab team, the 3 amazing women there, they're super excited. And you see what kind of degree they get in sustainable science, environmental health science, nutrition science, and of course the funding from the Gates Foundation and Sanitation Hygiene Fund. And I also got funding from the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences in the US.
Katrin, stick with me for one more minute. Anyone a biological question? Of course, first round. I give you the number 1 microphone, sorry, and then...
Hi, quick question. Where are the heavy metals coming from?
So yeah,
How are they finding their way into the menstrual products?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and that's a detective work we need to do. Because my understanding is if they are in the raw material, they are complex, so they're probably less likely to leach. And then now in the US, the FDA has a protocol to test menstrual products for as a medical device, and that's basically just a leaching. So they use a sweat solution and see how much comes out. But how much comes out doesn't tell you. It tells you, yes, that is bioavailable. However, it doesn't give you enough information where it's come from, because what leaches is probably not really bound to anything in the raw material, let's say cotton. It could more likely be in a process. So yeah, it's difficult to say, but that's why we did 2 studies, doing the total concentration and doing what's leachable, to get the ratio to each other to better understand actually, is it something in the raw material which can be improved, or is it something which potentially is more during manufacturing, which is not complex, it's more on the surface of the product. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Dr. Katrin Schilling, we will see you back on stage here. And to the German-speaking crowd, we are speaking about Blei, Quecksilber, Arsen, cadmium. These are just the chemicals translations. Stibbium, which I just looked up, it's a silbriges Halbmetall. Yes. And Uran. And with that, we are diving into our next conversation. Because think about it, in Germany, we regulate a lot of things. Even the power sockets in our living room is regulated. The amount of power sockets in different rooms, bathroom, kitchen, living room. Yes, there is a rule for it, a regulation. But when it comes to a tampon, there are no binding standards. And this is, of course, where we are diving in now. And maybe it's time to build an alliance for a real product alliance. And with that, I hand over to the topic of the standard development process. And he's the expert. He's MH Market Specialist at the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund. Adrian Dongos is with us. The stage is yours.
Where's the clicker? Great. Just press this button. Great. Good evening, everyone. I hope at the moment you feel some emotions, anger, scared, whatever it is. I think you're right to feel those feelings. Maybe a bit of fascination and respect for the incredible work of scientists as well. Thank you. I hope to be talking a little bit about what can we do about this current situation. And we've heard right now that there's a very strong imperative for wanting standards, because it's clear that our products that we find on the shelf today could be a lot safer. And it's actually not the only reason. I work for the United Nations Sanitation and Hygiene Fund. In a nutshell, what we try to do is help people get access to essential products and services, by buying them off the shelves in the market, not being reliant on a donor on the other side of the world to give it to them for free. And menstrual products happen to be one of those. So it's not the only reason we might want standards. I think this is not rocket science. Every second person needs a product on Earth for 35 years to manage their menstruation. Yeah, good morning, we know that. Good evening. And the reality is that in low and middle income countries, about 36%, 613 million women and girls still rely on a homemade solution. And actually standards play a role in that. The picture is diverse, but even if you look at an average Latin American country, we're talking about 1 in 10 up to 1 in 4 girls in a classroom, women on the workforce who don't have a product to rely on month to month. And the reality of that situation is pretty simple. Commercially available products, pads and tampons, are too expensive for those living off a few dollars a day. And these are the products that are available. We find ourselves in a situation where the lowest income users in the world can only buy the most expensive product. That's a bit strange. We have pretty awesome products today. So many more options, and I know cups have been around for decades, and my grandma used cloth to manage menstruation. But what's changed is material science. I think what's changed is more women making the products, designing the products. There's awesome single-use products. I heard about Calpons, I hope I'm saying this correctly, today. LG-made tampons. There's so much that's happening. And lots of people are running away with that. Now you have many users mixing and matching different types of products, and that's fantastic. You can buy, if you are living in Delhi, you can buy all kinds of cups and reusable period underwear from flash delivery services. The world is changing rapidly, and people are running away with that because it's more comfortable, it's better to use, and for everyone, a different option. Choice is great, but these products are not available on the shelves and in the countries where the lowest income users live. And standards play a role. There are many countries today that actually ban the importation of many reusable menstrual product options. And they actually have a pretty decent reason. What they say is, I don't have a standard in my country to certify that these products are safe. And it sounds like what I just heard, that that's a pretty important consideration. On top of that, they don't really have any regional or global standards to look to. So how do I determine whether the products as a government are safe to be sold on the market? And they have a really good point. But in the absence of global standards, product innovations don't reach the people who need those innovations. There are also barriers to resale for entrepreneurs who are working in those countries, making those products. They're a barrier to investment, they're a barrier to poor quality. All additional reasons for why we would want standards. And as we've just heard, we're wondering whether menstrual products are safe or as safe as we would have expected. I also do want to call out that in addition to Columbia University, both SHF and the Gates Foundation are also funding the Austrian research institute ÖFI, who are filling another important knowledge gap in the assessment of and global risks of menstrual products. But I think it's important to just stop for a second and think about the fact that there are no long-term health and safety requirements for menstrual products. I mean, I'm about to become a father. I have no idea what the gender is. 50-50 is going to be a girl. And she will likely be using a menstrual product for 20 years before she hits the average age where a Dutch woman will have her first child. I'd rather not have some of those metals in those products and all the potential consequences that go with that. We need a lot more research, but I think today has shown that that research is really, really needed. So what can we do to address this, and what has been done? And actually, maybe I'm here to share a bit of good news. Because there is actually a global institution responsible for setting standards, the International Standards Organization. I'm sure you've heard about these great partner organizations you're working with that's ISO 9001 certified. Fantastic. I have no idea what it means, but it's great. And ISO really manages everything. From the bridges you walk on to the air you breathe, ISO standards are there. And actually last year, we got ISO standards for sex toys. Fantastic. But I think you can guess what I'm about to say. There are no global ISO standards for menstrual products, a product used by every second person on Earth for 35 years of their lives. That's changing, though. I think the great news is that with the efforts of organizations like the Case for Her, the Swedish Institute of Standards, and through a body within ISO called COPOLCO, the Consumer Policy Organization, consumers said, we deserve standards. We deserve to know what's in our products, and we deserve to have quality secured through global standards. In 2022, after a lengthy process, this great committee, Technical Committee 338, was created, tasked with creating the first global menstrual product standards, not just for tampons and pads, but for all single-use and multi-use products that are used either internally or externally. I love the definition because it probably covers nearly every menstrual product that has been invented until today and the ones that are still to follow. I would recommend, if you are interested in knowing more about this, going to the ISO-TC website, reaching out to its chair, Gerda Larsson, or the temporary chair who's in the room today, Wendy Anderson. Please raise your hand. There she is. Please go to her for all her questions. And I think what I'm really excited about is that we were able to provide a small bit of support to all of this work. Because what we realized is that a global standard is only truly global if many countries participate. And the committee started off very small, very few low middle income countries who are part of the mix. But SHF funding, Gates Foundation funding made sure that many more low and middle income countries can participate. There are over 55 countries part of the global development of these standards. It's one of the biggest technical committees within ISO today. And it's not an easy route, but we're getting there. There is already a suggested approach for dealing with chemicals in this draft standard. It's not perfect, we need to do a lot more, and I think the study that you heard today and the study that Eufy is doing will help inform this committee to introduce the first ever requirements to make sure that these products become safer than they are. These are all the countries, just let that absorb. I think it's just incredible effort that's going on. On the slides, you will find a hyperlink. Please go there. The one thing that I do want to mention is that ISO standards, unfortunately, are not the end of the story. Because ISO standards are voluntary. We expect to have global standards mid-2027. And they will be printed, and they will be filed, and they will be put on the shelf in Geneva to collect dust, unless we implement these standards at the national level. And that is the real work that's going to come after this. There are great organizations that we're pulling together, ISO, CIS, ITC, the joint UN and WTO body responsible for supporting SME development and trade. What we need to do is support low and middle income countries to adopt these standards into national regulation. That's going to be another massive lift, and that is actually going to make the difference between a voluntary standard and a binding requirement, so that the safety standards that we need to keep these metals out of these products become requirements, not just here in Europe, but in every country on Earth, so that every woman everywhere can go to a shop not only to buy a product she can afford, but a product that she knows is safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. We have the next video on site, right? So we are switching now, traveling to Senegal to our colleague Rokia Tundiev. She's a program leader at the Association Sénégalaise de Normalisation. And she has a very strong expertise when it comes to program management, civil engineering, and our topic of today, also standardization. So let's listen what she has to tell us.
Je m'appelle Rokia Tundiev, je suis chef de programme normalisation au niveau de l'ASN, Association sénégalaise de normalisation. De ce fait, je suis chargée de tout ce qui est gestion des projets et programmes de normalisation au niveau de l'ASN. Dans le cadre de la normalisation des produits menstruels, je travaille en parfaite collaboration avec la chef de projet dans tout ce qui est l'organisation des réunions du comité miroir et tout ce qui est facilitation de la participation de nos experts au niveau des réunions internationaux, que ce soit en présentiel ou bien en virtuel. La situation en matière de sécurité sanitaire ici au niveau du Sénégal est assez précaire et cela est dû à plusieurs facteurs. Donc déjà, la disponibilité de produits et structures adaptées, mais également l'utilisation de pratiques d'hygiène dangereuses qui sont souvent dues à des tabous, à la stigmatisation, bien à la mauvaise gestion des déchets. Par rapport aux effets qui sont attendus de la future norme, c'est d'avoir déjà une bonne information qui est assez généralisée, mais également de pouvoir faire l'harmonisation au niveau régional et au final, c'est de pouvoir faire la réglementation de ces produits-là au niveau national. Effectivement, le comité miroir national est assez récent, il vient d'être créé. Nous avons eu à tenir une réunion Donc, par rapport aux préoccupations qui sont à tenir en compte, c'est d'abord de pouvoir avoir une participation assez efficace au niveau des réunions internationaux. Cela nous permettrait donc de pouvoir donner l'opinion nationale, de pouvoir quand même accompagner le comité, les experts à pouvoir participer de manière efficace et activement au niveau des activités et réunions du comité ISO-TC 338. La participation à la réunion internationale du comité ISO-TC 338 à Nairobi nous a été d'une très grande utilité. En effet, j'ai pu participer en parfaite collaboration avec une fondatrice d'une entreprise qui est dans la fabrication de tout ce qui est produit menstruel réutilisable. Donc, ce fut l'occasion quand même de donner tout ce qui est préoccupation par rapport à la fabrication de ces produits menstruels réutilisables, mais également ce fut l'occasion de participer à d'autres groupes de travail comme le LMIC qui est le groupe de travail pour les pays en développement. Et donc, on a pu quand même donner tout ce qui est contrainte par rapport à l'utilisation ou bien par rapport à la dissémination de cette future norme-là au niveau du Sénégal.
So merci to Rokia too, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us today, but to give you a little bit of background, she's one of the advocates and of course officially appointed for the International Committee of 68 countries to develop a standard. So she's really a huge voice when it comes to bring people together on an international level. Just to give you a little bit of a background information. Standardization in the field, of course, is a step into the direction of broadening the access to safe and effective menstrual products for all people who menstruate. So we have now, we're leaving that field now because it is a deep dive. We are going into our next topic when it comes to heading more into science, when it comes into the question how to scale up solutions, and when it comes to the look into the state of the art in the lab. And for that, I welcome the research associate at Stanford University, Avesta Kothari.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anesta, and I am, as you mentioned, from Prakash Lab at Stanford University. Unfortunately, Manu cannot be here, so I'm here. And as Dr. Rue and Adrian had mentioned, we all know this now, more than 500 million people around the world, or 500 million women around the world suffer from period poverty. They lack access to, sorry, I'm like not clicking, don't have access to proper products, quality products that would help them manage their menstruation. And in Kenya specifically, more than 65% of the women and girls, they don't have those products as well. So not just, we're just diving specifically into Kenya, and I'll tell you the reason why. This is just something that we're deeply diving into. And when we look at a standard pad and we look at primarily the absorbent layer in the middle, a lot of the materials come from timber and cotton, and a lot of both those materials don't grow easily in any of these arid and semi-arid areas. And you can see in the map, and it's a little bit hazy, but let me see the pointers. Yeah, the little hatches, the black hatches, are somewhere, a little bit above the equator, below, mostly in sub-Saharan Africa. So we have to find alternative bio feedstock. So, and in doing so, we have talked with many folks, including NIDISI, who's working with banana, LGP2 and Grenoble, who's doing work with bamboo, and Mithimet in Uganda, working with water hyacinth. And finally, we decided to focus on sisal because Manu was friends with, or is still friends with, Alex Adundo in Kenya. They had met back in TED Talk days. And so Alex, I'll come back to Alex, but we spent 2 years first in the lab using the sisal that was provided by Alex, and we had developed certain protocols very similar to actually what's inside the gut of a termite. So basically, it's a mild delignification process where you're removing the lignin and exposing the cellulose fibers within the plants themselves that are absorbent, whereas lignin is hydrophobic. And this is in contrast to a lot of the craft industry where paper making uses high temperature and a lot of chemicals. So we're trying to reduce a lot of those chemicals and the high temperature kind of large scale. We're looking at local, small scale local distribution. And since then, we've also been developing, redoing redoing the protocol to, again, reduce more the chemicals, even more than that we had done in that paper, to make it more feasible and scalable at scale in the site. And with that, we were able to still produce sisal fluff that either meets or even exceeds the absorbency of cotton and timber. So cotton and timber, the baseline is roughly about 15x. We've done a lot of absorption testing, and I'm really excited about the new standards, because as we're doing this, there's so many standards. You test them flat, you test them, at hanging. There's so many different ways, and just across the world, they're just non-one standard. Additionally, we're also starting to do bacterial testing to make sure that there's no bacterial growth in the processing of this. And additionally, I would like to talk with Catherine more later about the heavy metals as well. So yeah, going from lab to field. Maybe 2 months ago, we finally scaled up in Kisumu, Kenya. And so when we look at Kenya, so why Kenya? So Kenya is the central hub. It is close. It has access to the Indian Ocean. It has a lot of neighboring countries. So it's it's like the Mediterranean, basically, of Africa. Maybe that's an oversell, but yeah, we are also really dedicated to Kenya, because Kenya is an in sisal. It's the third world's largest producer of sisal, producing roughly about 20 to 30,000 metric tons a year. And to put that in perspective, that's about 5 billion pads a year. So here is Alex. So Alex Adundo, he's dedicated his whole life essentially to sisal. He's built all these tools to process sisal. He's a mechanical engineer, inventor, just a thinker, just a great, great collaborator. We worked with him for the past 2 or 3 years on this, and finally we are scaling up. In addition to being a great builder, he is well rooted in the community. He has very well integrated into the sisal farming community. So the way he started the orange and green tools there, those are sisal fiber decorticators. Basically, it's to be able to transform these leaves, these spiky leaves, into useful fibers. And these fibers are typically used in rope makings and in the industrial settings, very hardy. And just about a month ago, a colleague of mine, Hadil, worked with Alex in the field, and we finally set up our first large-scale setup in Kenya. And in doing so, we also interviewed local farmers and local women to understand kind of the needs and kind of the resources that are there. And it was, funnily enough, all the interviews that she's done, all of them said, it's kind of obvious that sisal is the answer. And so I'll fly through these slides. This is just things that we have done in the field recently, and if you're interested, we have a video of this in our website as well. This is our first setup, kind of the pad making workshop here that we have in Kenya. But in the future, or the near future, not too long, we want to set up like this, where we have all the components available in kind of one smallish space, where it can transform these leaves directly into fluff, and then finally assemble them into pads. Sorry. So building big tools. This is the resulting pulp. Some of these you can see that is still kind of manual. We are working right now to increase the production capacity of this. And finally, as of a month ago, we finally made the first sisal-based pad in Kenya. And here it is. And so this is kind of, I thought this picture captures it all. This is who we're building this for. And huge efforts. This is just not even everybody in the picture right now. This is just a huge effort from local side as well as in our lab. And speaking of in the spirit of Consortium, we are planning to build a sisal co-op in Kenya, where we are gathering both farmers and builders or entrepreneurs like Alex and others. So if we were to make, let's say, just fluff, we can also be a supplier of fluff. Because as we see that a lot of the fluff that we buy from China is also in a black box. We don't know exactly what goes in there. I'm sure there are a lot of heavy metals in there as well. And together with like we said, like our lab as well as LGP2 groups, where academic partners are there to help advance the research and then finally scale up in the field once the research is kind of tested. Yeah, this is our internal team, but thank you for the support from the Gates Foundation in the last 2-3 years. And we are always looking for funding for our next scale up. Thank you.
Asante sana, as we say in Kenya, at the Mediterranean. Coming from Kenya to another project based in Nepal. And we are now in the midst of different solutions in the lab, as you can see. So I'm very pleased to have the co-founder and the CEO of NIDISI, a purpose-owned social enterprise dedicated also, of course, tackling social and ecological challenges through entrepreneurial solutions. And he was motivated in his work and his passion in his journey by, I think we all have the images in our mind when we think of the earthquakes 2015 in Nepal. So that was for him a turning point. He transitioned from humanitarian aid and reconstruction to finally found Nepal's later transformed into NIDISI. He has a lot of more things, what's going on in his CV, but I think this is the most crucial thing now. Please give him a warm welcome. Fabio Matthias.
Thanks. Sorry. Yeah, hello everyone. I'm very pleased to be here. My name is Fabio Matthias, co-founder of NIDISI Europe. There's also like a Nepali entity from NIDISI Nepal. What do? You just said it, we are supporting and developing social businesses. But as you said, it started in 2015, and then we started also with a lot of very typically development aid projects, and I think we did all the mistakes that you can think about during that time. And this is how we changed our approach by more going into this idea of social businesses. And over the time, we worked a lot into plastic recycling, road construction, water treatment systems, and also, of course, the topic of menstrual hygiene, menstrual health management. And we developed a biodegradable sanitary pad out of the banana fiber. And Catherine, I would love to send it to you as well to check what is inside. Of course, we made a lot of lab tests, but it would be nice to have them from you as well. So we built 2 factories. One in the middle of a huge banana plantation where we are extracting the trunks. The trunks are being transformed into paper. And then the paper is we are bringing the paper afterwards to another city, to another production place in Bharatpur, a big city in Nepal. And from here on, we are building the absorbent part of the pad. Our aim is as well to produce 4,000 pads per day. And for that, we had to develop a lot of machines that didn't exist before. And it took us a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of energy to do so. And somehow the sad part is that all this knowledge is not new. So there are other organizations outside who are already doing what we are doing, but no one is ready to share their knowledge. So we tried to get out, we tried to reach them, but unfortunately everyone closed the door in front of us, and so we had to put money into something that was already out there. And we hope that this is now the last time we had to do so, because now we have a new project, it's called the Blueprint Project, and with that we are trying to bring that knowledge together, to share it, and to create communities who are able to use it. And we are very thankful to the GIZ because we are using your platform called PANORAMA to bring that knowledge together. And we are creating communities in Nepal at the moment, but now also thanks to the GIZ and the big event that happened 2 weeks ago in Nairobi, also with other partners, mainly from Kenya and other parts of the world. And I met a guy a few days ago who told me, here you can see some of the pets. We have pets here also, so later on if you want to see them, please just come around. And the guy told me we need more corporations. And the cooperation is based on three main things. And the first thing is knowledge. I see we have a lot of knowledge in that room. The other one is integrity and goodwill. And I think if we are able to bring all that together, then cooperation is possible. And we definitely need that because it's a waste of resources if we use it in things that are already out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and of course we will later have time for more questions. Now we will watch a quick video, and then I will introduce you to our next changemaker and trailblazer and superstar and rockstar, right? That's a good cliffhanger, so let's watch first the video.
Health and Hygiene Accelerator is a one-of-its-kind program that has as a main goal to support 10 enterprises working in the female health and hygiene sector in Kenya, in Uganda, and in Ghana to become investment ready and scale up. So we provide them with a approximately 1 year support that goes from identifying what are the key barriers that are preventing their scaling up, to training them in their growth strategies, in their financial management, to also giving them catalytic grants so that they can test their new business models, and by the end of the program also matchmaking them with potential investors or funding partners that can take them to the next level. So we are supporting 10 enterprises right now, from 3 from Kenya, 5 from Uganda, and 3 from Ghana, that are doing amazing work providing menstrual hygiene products and services in vulnerable communities, and really confident that by the end of the program, they are really better positioned to be able to scale up their impact and reach the menstrual hygiene gap in their countries.
Being part of the accelerator has made us appreciate and understand our business strategy, has made us help us come up with key performance indicators, both with the revenue model and the impact that our bag can actually make. So we are excited at our future because it's going to be amazing. We are going to hit this market with a bang because we know how to communicate, we know where to research, and we know where our leads are, and we believe by 2027 we would have hit our targets. Thank you.
Wonderful. And with that, we are all on this journey tonight. So we had the facts and the figures and the studies. We were diving into the labs, heard different products. And now, of course, we are on this journey. Of course, we just listened to the voices of some accelerators. And what is then the next step coming out of an accelerator? And this is exactly where she is now with us on this journey tonight. She's the founder of Ecomed Africa from Ghana, a social impact enterprise in Ghana dedicated to ending period poverty, and a moment where she, transformed somehow her life in a way. It happened 2015 when she then founded the Rural Girls Empowerment Project, and she knows all about it, and we are so thrilled to have you joining us from Ghana. Please give her a big round of applause. I don't know if you're still jet-lagged, but here you are. You get rid of it. Amdia Abdul Latif.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Let me check this. Okay, great. Okay. My name is Amdi Abdul-Latif. I'm a menstrual health advocate. I'm also an ecofeminist and also a social entrepreneur. I lead 2 social impact-driven organizations. One is an NGO, and the other is a social enterprise. And these are both social impact-driven organizations that are working to fix the menstrual health and waste challenges, not just in Ghana, but across Africa. Great. So this is the situation in Ghana. The reality, globally, it's 500 million, about 500 million, right? Women lack access to sustainable menstrual health and menstrual health solution. Sadly, in Ghana, a recent research by Ghana Research Brief revealed that 95% of girls actually miss school simply because they are menstruating. It's because of 3 different reasons: lacking access to sanitary pads, lack of information or knowledge on how to manage their menstruation, lack of facilities, and of course, the misconceptions and taboos that have shrouded women in silence for so many years. A lot of women actually think their menstruation is a disease, it's a sickness, it's a curse. So when women are menstruating, they don't want to go to school. That is why you have this, very disturbing statistic. So usually that is actually the challenge, and of course, we all know the challenge of disposable parts. They contain 90% plastic and take about 800 years to decompose, outliving the entire lifespan of the user. And then, of course, the carbon footprint from making disposable sanitary pads are enormous. Yes, and then, of course, talking about rural Ghana, unemployment has actually taken over, and women are suffering in silence. Of course, a lot of them are going through gender-based violence just because they are unable to support their families. So this is my journey. In 2012, I was posted to the rural community as a service teacher. This was when I experienced first-hand period poverty. My female students were missing out of school days. Some were using very unhygienic means like rags, socks, leaves, just to anything that can hold the blood. And some were pushed to exchange sex for sanitary pads because they had to choose between their basic needs. And they fall prey to some of the men who were preying on them. Some of my students were actually coming from school. They were coming to school from their boyfriend's home. I get parents coming to me to plead their daughters to come home because they've left home for months and they're living with their boyfriends just because of their basic needs. And this mattered to me because it was a personal experience I lived. And coming to meet my young girls, my students facing the same challenge, I decided to help. Guess what I did? I started distributing disposable sanitary pads. But the problem persisted because menstruation was a monthly occurrence and they needed monthly supplies. So this actually got me to rethink. So during that time, I actually started an NGO called Rural Girls Empowerment. If you can see the young lady, she was in one of the t-shirts, Rural Girls CMS. We were doing education, mentorship, and support, providing them with their basic needs like books, uniforms, sanitary pads. So what happened? These young girls, every month, they will come to me, Madam, we need pad. Every month. And I was also soliciting for funds. So we were running donation campaigns, donate 5 cedis, provide a pad for a girl, but it was not sustainable. So we had to rethink. That was when I realized, there was actually an old knowledge that we could add a bit of innovation and technology. Because in Ghana, a lot of our parents or grandparents were using rags to absorb their blood. And they were doing very well until we were made to believe that our bodies were dirty, our menstrual blood was filthy, impure, we were sick, and so there's that convenience of discarding your menstrual blood away. That was why people decided to go in for disposable pads. They wanted to discard. But then again, what was wrong with our grandparents? They never faced infections, they were managing their period. So we had to rethink deeper. So how do we bring back this old knowledge and add a bit of innovation? Put together different materials that could absorb very well, come with no chemicals, no synthetic gels and chemicals that are creating irritating rashes and infections, but could also hold blood and prevent leakage. And that was where we decided to innovate around EcoPeriod. EcoPeriod is made from, sustainable materials. They are very comfortable to wear, easy to wash and dry, and designed to promote good health, safe cost, and save the environment. They are reusable, they are reliable, and they are sustainable. So this kit can be reused for at least 2 good years. So it was able to keep the girls in my school and the community girls in school. Just a kit could keep them in school for 2 good years. No more monthly purchases of pad, no more rashes, and a lot of them burn their pads. Yes, they were burying pads, they were burning pads, because in Ghana, and I know Africa, people turn around to go pick pads on landfills. They use them for voodoo. I don't know about here, but in Ghana, in Africa, people go around pick these pads. So people didn't want to discard their blood away, so they were washing them. They were actually removing the blood, or they will burn them or bury them. So it was not good for the environment, it was not good for their health. But with EcoPeriod, no more burning of pads, no more burying of pads, no more monthly purchases of pads. You actually get to enjoy your period because the materials are very soft and fluffy. I always say pamper your vagina because the materials get to pamper their vagina. Yes, so that was how the journey transformed. So at EcoMe Africa, so what happened as a young woman leading an NGO, why did I decide to establish a social enterprise? Because we wanted sustainability. We didn't want to be donor reliant. We wanted to create social and environmental impact in a financially sustainable way. And that was why we established EcoMe Africa to solve 3 critical challenges: period poverty, plastic period, and the high unemployment rates in our rural communities. So at EcoMe Africa, we have a model, we call it EcoDivers. So EcoDivers, we strategically target socially disadvantaged women in rural areas. We recruit them, we train them to make the parts, and then we position them as producers of the parts. We also train them as sales agents, distributors of these parts in very rural areas where we are unable to reach, so that they create access to these very remote areas where even the normal parts cannot be able to access because transportation system is so bad. So EcoDivers ensure we also empower them with health education. So they train the communities in terms of menstrual health education. They provide access to parts, to these parts, and most importantly, we help create economic empowerment for these women, empower them to lift them out of poverty, and also end gender-based violence, taking them out from over-dependency on their partners, because mainly gender-based violence is caused by over-dependency on your partner. So we give them back their power to be able to support their families and end gender-based violence. And also sustainable products. EcoPeriod are environmentally friendly. They are from the materials we use. The reuse of our parts alone eliminates the tons of menstrual waste that would have been generated by a single woman. So in Ghana, for instance, if a woman should use just a pad in a day, for a month, just if menstruating women should use 1 pad in a day, that's about 100 million disposable pads just in 1 month that will end up on our landfills. So the reuse of our pads eliminates these pads, which would have been used monthly. And also, our production process, we use simple machines. You don't need any factory setup. You just need simple machines. You bring these materials, you put them together, and then you make a sanitary pad. So it eliminates the high-intensive processing of plastics, which creates carbon emission and ozone layer depletion. And also our production waste. nothing goes waste. Our cats are repurposed into pillows. You can see them here. So nothing goes waste in our production facility. And then these pillows are sold by our women. They generate extra income. So far, we've been able to impact over 50,000 women and girls with our pads. That's about 200,000 of our pads that have been made. We've also created direct jobs of 25 people and also eliminated 3.6 million kg from the environment. The road ahead. We have proven our model. We've been able to establish strategic partners, high-value partners. We've also been able to expand our production at NIDISI in Accra. We've also been able to, actually, we've grown from that rural champion in that rural community where I went as a teacher to become a national authority. Because currently we sit on the technical committee for Ghana Standard Authority, supporting them to develop standards. And then our products have been used by Ghana Standard Authority on a global level because EcoPeriod has been able to position ourselves as such. We've proven our model. Now we are ready to scale. We are looking at establishing Ghana's first reusable pad manufacturing factory on a 30,000 square meter land to be able to increase production, implement robust marketing strategies, dominate the Ghanaian markets, and then what? Service the West African market, because we've already received orders and demands from these West African markets, and EcoPeriod is the first of its kind to be locally produced in Ghana. So the market potential is great, and the race is on. We are looking to grow at an exponential rate to be able to access these markets. And of course, reach 1 million women and girls with our accessible hygiene products. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are calling on you as partners, we are calling on you as funders to be able to support us, to be able to restore dignity and hope for the millions of women and girls, not just in Ghana, but across Africa. Thank you very much.